I'm not telling people, don't worry about money. You got to focus on these other things. Like, that is part of it. We need to have our basic needs met, and money is one of them. And when that is met, though, here's the thing. It doesn't incrementally increase. Like, you're not going to go from 15 million to 25 million isn't really going to change your lifestyle much. So if you spend your whole life chasing that, ignore everything else, you're going to be miserable.
Welcome to Exploring Mind and Body with Drew Tadia. Drew is an expert in nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. And he wants to help you live a healthier, longer, and more active life. Now here's your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of Nationally Syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. We're coming at you with a brand new show. We appreciate whether you're listening on terrestrial radio across the country or as a podcast around the world. We certainly wouldn't be here without you. So stick around. We got all that coming up.
This is Exploring Mind and Body. Naturally improve your lifestyle one show at a time with your host, Drew Tadia.
Welcome to another edition of Nationally Syndicated Exploring Mind and Body. We have Will here with us online. Will, thanks so much for being here with us.
Drew, thanks for having me, brother. Super pumped, ready to party.
All right. Good. It's our pleasure. So tell us about yourself. Let's get into it. Let's hear from you. Give us a chance to resonate with our audience, who you are, what you do.
Well, 10,000 foot view. My story is I had a rough childhood. My mom was an alcoholic. She was verbally and physically abusive. My dad moved away early. We actually lived in Hawaii. They were hippies. My sister lived in a van for the first couple of years of our life. It was pretty nuts. But they come from a very structured family, ironically. Like, my grandfather on my mom's side was a general in the military. He boycotted the wedding when she found out she was marrying a hippie. So I basically, by the time we moved around a lot. We moved, and I just never felt like I fit in. By the time I got to college, I was kind of your typical victim, and I just felt like life was out to get me. My brain was broken. I would have traded my brain for anything in the world. And I serendipitously discovered a book by one of my professors. I kind of threw myself into studies, and it was called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, which was written in like the 1940s and still holds up today as a fantastic book, which proves that it's a good one. And it just sort of shifted my mind and like, okay, maybe there's a way to transform my life. And I kind of dedicated myself to reinventing myself and basically turned myself into this human science experiment and said, okay, I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow. I just became an insatiable self-help beast. I was taking notes on everything along the way, what worked, what didn't, and kind of creating this list of universal principles of how I wanted to live my life, and just slowly but surely making progress, building momentum. And then flash forward 25 years later, things have turned out pretty well. Success, is a word I always use in quotes because people tend to associate it with finances and career. To me, that's just one aspect of life. I was able to do pretty well in that. We sold our company for a joint $333 million last February 2019. It was a restaurant delivery service startup that I started up with 3 other guys. And then since then, it was kind of like, okay, now what? It was an amazing feeling, but luckily I already knew what was going to happen, which is exactly what did, which was essentially, okay, this doesn't make me happy. It feels great. I got a nice chunk of change for my business, but now what? Like, now what do I do? And to me, it became crystal clear. I wanted to help people that struggled the same way I do, give them some of these lessons I've learned along the way, and essentially help people build momentum in their lives.
What is that like mentally and emotionally? I could see I'm 100% with you when it comes to people associate success with finances. But for you to be like, yes, we did it. There's a chunk of money coming my way. Is there a big disappointment in like, maybe the finances didn't bring as much happiness as you're expecting, but then you put in all that time and effort to a business and it's gone? What do you do?
Yeah, for me, it didn't go that way. There was no like sadness. I definitely have talked to people that feel like that, their baby's been taken away that they've been working on for, their whole lives. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, now what? But luckily for me, I kind of had already been thinking about like, okay, once this is gone, this is kind of what I want to get into. And I knew that I wanted to, I've been taking notes. I've been essentially writing a book for the last 25 years. I just knew I needed to organize it. I needed the time to be able to spend on it. So it was kind of more excitement for me. Like, now I can breathe. Like, I got this chunk of money. I don't have to worry about my mortgage payment, where my next meal is coming from type of thing. It's like, okay, I've got enough, I'm financially enough secure. And that, again, that's why that's one important area of life. I'm not telling people, don't worry about money. You got to focus on these other things. Like, that is part of it. We need to have our basic needs met, and money is one of them. And when that is met, though, here's the thing, it doesn't incrementally increase. Like, you're not going to go from 15 million to 25 million isn't really going to change your lifestyle much. So if you spend your whole life chasing that and ignore everything else, you're going to be miserable.
What do you feel comfortable sharing your biggest purchase after that?
I bought, so we actually moved right around that time. So I bought a house, but fortunately, I'd already been building my wealth in other areas, particular in real estate. I started a rental company like 15 years earlier, and that had been building. So I'd already financially been doing pretty well. And then the doorstep delivery, my restaurant delivery service was actually making money, the one that we sold. So, I had a pretty nice house already in Florida, but when we moved to Chicago about 5 years ago, I bought a slight upgrade to the house. But honestly, I drive a RAV4, $250 a month rental. And the reason I do that is, it's not that I don't love cars. I used to drive a Range Rover when I was in Florida. I love those cars. But to me, the way I've gamified my life, in that I like to give myself rewards when I get to certain stages. And so I've told myself, once my app and my book are finished, well, whichever one comes first, it looks like it's going to be the app in probably 2 to 3 months, then I can get my new car. Right. And so it helps, it just in the back of my mind, to help push me that little bit extra to make sure that I get it done. And it'll feel that much better when I then say, okay, this RAV4 can now go back to the lease, and I can get the car that I've been wanting for a while.
So did you say, so you lease it or you rent it?
I leased a RAV4.
Okay.
And I drive literally like an average of 100, maybe 50 miles a month. Like, I drive nowhere because I work from home and everything's around here. So I don't need a fancy car, but I'm to the point now, I've been driving this car since we've basically been here about 4 years now, 4.5 years. And I'm like, okay, I want that. This is the car that I wanted. I was waiting for it to go electric and hybrid so that it could be, I could feel better about myself about driving a big gas guzzler. And they finally got that last year, and I didn't want to buy the first version. So I'm like, I'll just wait. I'll use that as a reward.
Speaking of electric, did you hear that Elon Musk is selling everything? Like, selling all his houses, and he's just going to rent?
I didn't hear that. That's crazy. Wow. He's an interesting dude. He never ceases to amaze. He comes out, his brain works uniquely, but clearly it's working for him. And that's part of what happened to me. Like, that journey, 25 years later now, I wouldn't change my brain for the world. Whereas back then I was like, what's wrong with my brain? It's broken. It doesn't work properly. But I'm super creative. I have ADD, but so do a lot of people. I used to be ashamed of that. I have these weaknesses. I don't focus on those. I outsource them. I let other people help me with them. I just focus on my strengths. And I feel like that's kind of what Elon Musk does too. And that's kind of the path to that quote unquote true success.
Tell me about these cores and the momentum that you kind of specialize in here.
So the 5 core areas, as we've discussed, career and finances is one of them. The first one is mindset. And that, to me, is the most important of all. Your mindset is essentially whether your brain is working for or against you. Most of us, unfortunately, our brain tends to work against us. We build negative momentum every day. I call it a fixed victim in life versus a growth owner. So a growth owner, the fixed victim is like I was in college. Like, poor me, my brain's broken. There's nothing I can do about it. Oh, maybe I'll hit the lottery someday and all my problems will be solved. Versus the growth owner says, okay, I know what my strengths are. I know what my passions are, my weaknesses, just like everybody else. I have them, but I'm going to figure out how to work around them. And I am going to set my goals and pick my path, and nothing's going to get in my way. I know I have everything within me to kick ass, take names. And along the way, I'm going to fail forward. And every time I do, I'm going to become a bigger, better, faster, stronger, smarter version of myself.
So how do you differentiate the people? Like, must be a tipping point. There's those of us self-learners, and people are always trying to improve. Then you have the victim. How do you bridge the gap?
So unfortunately, most people have at least some victim in them. And to me, I help people identify those victim parts, and it all revolves around habits for me. That's what life is about, and with each of these core areas, including your mindset, you have habits. So are you in the habit of putting yourself down? Are you in the habit of having negative thoughts? Are you and dwelling on things that happen versus saying, okay, that sucked, but what did I learn from it, and how can I improve moving forward? That's a huge difference, right? And how many people do you know? And it's in our nature to want to dwell and be like, poor me, like that sucked, but that's not going to do anything for you in life. And so if you can start to switch that and identify when that's happening and break those habits, which is what I focus on and what this app is going to be about, it's essentially the accumulation of years of different iterations of me trying to figure out the perfect system to help break the habits. And now I'm trying to gamify it, make it fun, addictive, interesting, just like it is on, going on social media or, Google. But those companies, they have an obligation to their shareholders, right? And they have to make profit. So your well-being, your happiness isn't taken into the equation. Whereas with me, that's exactly what this is about. So I'm using that same science and tech to get you addicted. But when you level up on screen, you're going to actually level up in real life.
So tell me about this gamify. It's interesting to me. How can you make this more interesting, more exciting, more fun for those interested in learning more?
Using those same things. So like, I don't know if you play any games. I've always been a gamer. So I think that's actually helped me. I used to think it was a bad thing that I liked video games, but now I'm like, shoot, I'm so glad I did, because I've learned all the things that I think work and are good. And I've read books. Nireyal, Nireyal, wrote a book called Hooked. And that's a really good one that kind of gets you into that mind frame of how people get addicted to things, what it is that gets them there. And again, a lot of these big tech companies are using that, for lack of a better word, evil. I don't think they started out to, but now the Pandora's box is open and they kind of have to. And I'm using that same stuff for, like I said, to try to help people become happier. And the trick, just little things like intermittent rewards versus the exact same type of reward. I mean, I don't know if you play games on your phone, like Words with Friends, Clash of Clans, or some of these big games. I still actually play them on my phone, and they have exactly these types of things. And it's always really fun, cool graphics, animation. So that's what my app's going to have. You're actually a rocket ship, and you're going to have the 5 core cylinders of your engine. And in order to get off of the ground, you have to slowly start building momentum by stopping your failure habits and replacing them with success habits. And then you eventually work your way to the moon, is your first planet. Then you go to the next planet, and so on and so forth. Then you want to get out of the galaxy, you want to get out of the universe, or you want to get to the next solar system. So while you're meeting aliens along the way, you're landing on strange planets, you're fighting through asteroid fields. So it's literally a game, but you're having fun, but at the same time, you're still, you're holding yourself accountable and shining that spotlight on those failure habits that you want to stop and the success habits you want to replace them with.
It sounds awesome. I want to play.
Yeah, we'll sign up on my website when the beta's ready in a couple months. You'll be notified.
So when you go to like a different planet, you have to complete tasks of mind
so there's
improvement?
little side quests and things like, I have you create certain lists, because it's overwhelming if you start too big. So if I were to sit down right now and say, okay, Drew, I want you to go ahead and create a strengths list, a weaknesses list, a passions list, your top fears list, a morning routine list. Like, it's too much, right? So the game has you start creating these slowly on little side quests and stuff, and like the little alien will give you a reward, and you can actually level up your rocket ship. You can make it more like an unstoppable, like armor and rocket boosters and these things, and those are the rewards you get. But you got to start adding to your list. Like, you start with just your top 3 strengths, and then you slowly start adding. And as you're becoming more aware of your life and the things that are working, not working, these lists become easier to add to, and you get rewarded as you add to them.
Okay, so I actually talked about this similar type of idea around goals I did a Facebook Live this morning. Tell me, a lot of our listeners are coming for nutrition, fitness. I think like it's really challenging for people to set goals, because most people just want to do like weight loss goals. Like, I'm like, what's your goal? And they're like, I don't know. Maybe I could lose some weight. So can you relate maybe some smaller steps or gamified version to someone that wants to achieve in fitness or nutrition?
Yeah, absolutely. So the way that I've been doing it up until now, it started with a piece of paper, then it moved to a Microsoft Word doc, then it moved to an Excel doc. So if you don't have the app, a good way to do it, just create a little Excel doc, put your 5 cores that you have. And so physical health is one of your cores. And you want to put the top habits that you're trying, either the top habits you're trying to stop and the top habits you're trying to start or replace with. And just start with 1 or 2 for each. Don't get too crazy. And literally at the end of the day, just use your phone, use the notes in your phone to kind of score yourself and be like, okay, how'd I do today? Right? Have your alarm go off to reduce the friction, to remind you, so you don't have to remember on your own, because it's not a habit you're used to. You got to get in the habit of doing it. So at the end of the day, whenever that period is that you're kind of winding down, maybe you're in bed and you're just like, okay, the day's over and you're whatever. And then you go, okay, how did I do today on these habits that I'm working on? And you just score yourself. And so if you're trying to go to the gym, and you give yourself, and you went to the gym that day, I usually do 1 out of 5. So if it's a yes or no, you give yourself a 5. If it's a no, you do a 0. So, and then at the end of the week, you just insert them into the Excel sheet. Again, there's a little bit more friction with that. And that's why I'm doing the app. So there's less work. I don't want it to feel like homework. But then you just kind of put that in the Excel sheet, and you literally start to, week after week, and you start adding the cores slowly but surely. And you start seeing like, okay, what am I ranking? Like, how did overall this week? Okay, Monday I gave myself a 2. Tuesday I gave myself a 4. Wednesday I gave myself a 1. And you kind of average out the scores, and you start seeing how you're doing. And just naturally by doing this, you're going to start making improvements in your life, because you're going to start becoming more aware and catching yourself and knowing that somebody's looking. And the app also has a feature where you're going to literally be scored against everybody that's using the app. So there's that competition aspect of being like, well, shit, that guy's got a momentum score of 500. I need to get to 600, right? And so that's a natural thing also that gamifies it, makes you want to improve. So that's the way to do it in the meantime.
Awesome. Okay, so what else I don't think we covered all the core. How many cores? 5 cores?
So mindset, career, and finances is the second core. Relationships is the third core. And that's essentially, are you building relationships with people, these strong connections that are helping propel you through life, whether it's your friends and your family, colleagues and acquaintances, your significant other. Are you coming together and working as a team, like saying, I love you, you love me, let's do this? Or is it like, you're just butting heads with everybody, and if you're at the office, or there's opportunities to connect with people, you're on your phone and you're doing this type of thing? Are you liking your friends on Facebook? One of your buddies that you're close with, you can't be friends with everybody. You can't have 10,000 friends, but like the 5 or so people that you really want to keep in touch with, are you liking their picture on Facebook, or are you picking up the phone and calling them, or having a Zoom call with them, right? Like just human interaction, these types of things. Then the next core is your physical health, which we kind of discussed. And then the last, which is, your sleeping, your eating, your workout patterns. And again, within each core, there's these universal principles in each, and they tie to the failure habits that you might have and the success habits that you want to replace them with, based around these universal principles. And so that's what I help people with. That's what the book's going to have. That's what the app's going to have. It's going to have the most common ones that people struggle with, so that you can sort of say, oh yeah, that's me. And then you start identifying them, you start working on them. And then the last core is your emotional health and giving back core. So it's both making sure you're not just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, stressed all the time, dwelling on things. Like you're able to breathe, you're able to take a 10,000 foot view, what you're passionate about and that you love, and you're proactively incorporating those things into your life. And then the giving back section, is bottom line, what legacy are you going to leave? Is the world going to be better or worse for having you in it? Right? Is the world going to go, that guy was awesome, thank God he was born? Or is it going to go, good riddance, dude, you sucked? So that's basically the 5.
So you've mentioned 10,000 foot view a few times in the interview. Is that something that you teach or something that you do personally? Explain that for us.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. It's just a phrase that, I picked up along the way that I like, because we tend to get this tunnel vision where we can't see past our noses, and we're just focused on, like I said, at the beginning of this interview, the money portion, or, if I could just get that, the if only type of thing. If only I could get that promotion. If only I could have the perfect girlfriend. If only I could have 10,000 likes on Facebook. And that is just, you're not stepping back and seeing the big picture, that 10,000 foot view of like what's actually important, what really matters. And again, it's these 5 core areas, and it's finding balance in each and continuing to grow and build momentum in each, which is going to make you the happiest and best version of yourself.
Where does the passion come from? Why are you like, I need to change people's lives or help improve their lives?
Probably because had I had a really ideal childhood and didn't struggle as much, honestly, I probably wouldn't be doing this, right? I think a lot of people that get into this type of thing where they're looking to help people, it's because it's super passionate, because it resonates, where I know how much I struggled, and I was literally like suicidal in college. And now I go and I would have traded my brain for anything. And now I wouldn't trade my brain for any. You could not give me $1 zillion to trade my brain. I love it. And I know that the fact that I did it, trust me, I know it's possible for anybody. And so I'm like, and now I have 2 small children. I got 2 small boys. I got a 4.5-year-old and a 2-year-old. And it's like, if nothing else, I want to help them make sure they don't go down that same path and make the same mistakes I did. And, if I can help other people along the way in their journey, and the earlier I can get to them, the better, because then it's like habits don't care if they're good or bad, helping or hurting us. They're going to lock in and do their thing over time. So you can definitely unhook them, but the sooner you get to learning these principles and these good habits early on, the better off you'll be.
What are you hoping to achieve are the book and the app, they coming out at the same time, or how does that work?
No, the book is going to be, now it's looking like it's going to come out later. But the app is going to be coming out first, and they'll play off of each other. So you don't have to have the app to read the book and vice versa, but there's synchronization there, or what's the word for that? Anyways, they can be used together, symbiotic, I think. And they can if you read the book, then you're like, okay, I have all this knowledge, and now I can take it to the app. And if you use the app, you can say, okay, well, I can take it to the next level if I read the book, because then I'll understand more. I'm all about connecting to people's why. Like you can't just go to tell somebody you should work out, you should eat well. Like that doesn't work. You have to get into their soul, and they need to understand why it makes sense to do that. And that's what I think I'm able to do more so with the book.
And is that what you're hoping to accomplish? Like when you release this book, what are some of do you have any short-term or long-term goals of how to make some changes in people's lives?
Yeah, I mean, my long-term goal is, I want to change the educational system. I feel like it's a tragedy. Our system's broken, and I went through it. And, if it were up to me, at least the educational part, you start teaching things like I'm teaching. Like you start teaching early on about what's really important, what really brings happiness. I mean, right now, the educational system, the fact that we're learning about like trigonometry and, these things before we're learning about emotional intelligence, before we're learning how to balance our checkbooks, before we're learning about how to be confident, how to, gain momentum and happiness in life. Like that's crazy to me, but it's just a broken system that hasn't changed. It's pretty much been the same since it was created hundreds of years ago, back when we were it was factories were the focus, and we were kind of gearing people to go into factories. And it's like, no, so it's in need of a big overhaul. And my ultimate mission is, help people become the best version of themselves, so they can then in turn pay it forward to help the world become the best version of itself, so that both can start gaining momentum. Because in my opinion, we're close to being to the point of no return, and we're getting into some trouble with our planet, with the way people are treating each other. And we got to come together. And the more people can live the 5 core life and build their momentum individually, the more they're going to pay it forward to help others do the same.
It's always interesting to me for me to listen to entrepreneurs talk about school, because like for me, I was a horrible student. I didn't excel till after school. So it seems like those that maybe, I don't know if it's a self-taught thing, like those of us that are self-learners excel better. But so many people, so many successful entrepreneurs talk about how school basically held them back, and it wasn't until after they could make some changes in their life and actually improve their situation.
That's exactly right. I agree with that. And by the way, I have utmost respect for teachers. I don't blame teachers. I'm not trying to point fingers. The whole system in general is broken. It's very expensive, and it's very difficult to change it, but it's got to be changed. It's got to start somewhere. So that's what I'm trying to do.
I didn't ask you earlier because I wanted to save it till the end. As you reach your book goal, or I'm not sure what it was to actually launch the book, was that you said you were going to buy a new car. Is that right?
Yeah.
What car was that?
So I want the update. So I had a Range Rover back when I was in Florida. It was another reward that I gave myself. I earned that. My old job, I used to sell real estate land, and the top prize that year was a Range Rover. So that was the very first time I got that car, and I fell in love with it. And so earlier I think I mentioned I've been waiting for the hybrid version because I just felt too guilty driving around this big gas guzzler. And they finally came out with one this past year. And so when I'm done with, I think the app is going to be the first thing done. When I'm done with that, that's when I'm going to make the move and get the new one.
So what are you going to do after that? Are you going to, is that your dream car, or you're going to have to set a different kind of goal for your next milestone? For
car wise, I don't need to set another goal after that. I mean, the Teslas are cool. In the next 5 years or so, we'll probably be having self-driving cars, and yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll switch it. But I mean, no, I'm not going to be focusing on that aspect of it. Like I said, that's the point. I have all this money in the bank and I'm driving a RAV4. Like, I don't need to drive the Range Rover to be happy. I'm using it as a goal to help motivate myself. And will it be nice to get into a Range Rover every day versus a RAV4? Sure. But after that, then I don't need a Maserati, and I don't need, what's after that? Like, it's at a certain point, that's my point. It's like when you have what you need, when it's like, this is my goal, this is what I want, just stop there. And then focus on other parts of your life. Like, don't just keep chasing that next, keeping up with the Joneses. Like, well, I have the 2019 jet. This guy just bought the 2021 version of my jet. Well, I gotta go. I gotta get that. It's like, at what point does it just become ludicrous? Where you're like, okay, I'm just chasing. I'm just saying, and it doesn't bring happiness. Trust me. Again, when your needs are met and you get enough, that is important and it feels good. You don't have to worry about where your next meal is coming from. But after that, you got to focus on these other core areas. That's how you're truly going to become it.
Have you read Millionaire Next Door?
No, so many people have told me about that book. I feel like I know what it's about, but I've not read it.
It's just similar how a lot of millionaires we think they live like these huge lavish lifestyles, but the good majority of them buy like used cars and drive them for 20 years.
Right.
But yeah, 100%. I think that's a great point for you to emphasize. So I appreciate that. I feel like so many times we get one thing and then it's just not enough. We got to have a bigger house. Then you have a bigger house. So we kind of miss that internal happiness that material possessions don't provide.
That's right.
So, Will, before we wrap things up here, is there anything that I missed that you wanted to cover?
No, I mean, I think we covered most of it. My website has more information on gamifying your life on the app. You can sign up for the app to get when the beta version's released, you can get that sent to you for free. There's also a core score life evaluator quiz at the top. You just click on it, and it's a quick quiz you can take to kind of give you a sense of where you stand in each of your 5 cores, so you know what to work on. And that my website is More Momentum, MOORE, momentum.com. And then we have an Instagram page, which is just a fun page where you can, we have kind of like a good news type page related to living the 5 core life. So just fun viral type clips, as well as me doing interviews with people and doing little posts about how to live the 5 core life, be happy, have fun, and just enjoy the ride.
Awesome. And you have your own podcast too, don't you?
I do. Yeah. It's called 5 Core Life.
And you just talk about similar things?
Yep. Pretty much everything we're talking about here. And then I just have guests on that I think are living the 5 core life or close to it, and getting their experiences and helping other people kind of spread the message on how to live it.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Exploring Mind and Body. I know there's some cold temperatures going through those colder areas, so I hope you stay warm, and I wish you all the best with your book and your app coming out.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, Drew, this was a blast. Thanks for having me on, man.
My pleasure. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this edition of Exploring Mind and Body. Once again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in and being a part of our True Form Life community. You can always find us on Facebook.com/TrueFormLife. We post up there a couple times a day on our story. We're always trying to bring you more content around living a healthy lifestyle, whether that be nutrition, fitness, lifestyle, and more. We also have free challenges that we do at least once a month. So if you follow us along there, you'll be able to join maybe a plank challenge or a squat challenge, Tabata challenge, challenge, whatever it may be. We'd love to have you join us. We're also on Instagram.com/DrewTadia. Again, we're posting up there a couple times a day along with our story, all dedicated to keeping you fit and healthy and on track. Our main website is trueformlife.com. If you want to check out some of our products, some of our services, or if you just want some great content from videos to blog posts and recipes and more, we got all that at trueformlife.com. Once again, thank you so much for being here. That's it. That's all I got. I'm out of here. As always, I'm your host, Drew Tadia, in health and fitness for a better world. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Exploring Mind and Body with Trueform Life's Drew Tadia, fitness expert. To find out more about the show, Drew Tadia, or to listen to past shows, visit exploringmindandbody.com.